Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we have got a 211 E-Class in. It has failed its MOT. The car has done 185,000 miles. So basically this video is about, is it worth fixing? It's done 185,000 miles. It needs a good few £1,000s spending on it to get it through its MOT. So a lot of people say, what's the point? I suppose at this stage in the car's life, the car has more than paid for itself if you've covered that kind of mileage in the car, or, you know, if you bought it 100,000 and you're now 185,000, the car is not worth an awful lot, but you've kind of got to think, well, it doesn't owe me an awful lot, it's done its job. So a lot of people are going to come to the point in a car's life where, is it worth it? Is it worth fixing? Is it worth continuing? It's still an old Mercedes that's done 185,000 miles. This customer is having the work done, obviously, otherwise this video would be a waste of time. So what's it failed on? It has failed on quite a few suspension components. I'll just shut this door because the compressor's going off. It's failed on quite a few suspension components. Not the end of the world. It is what it is, but there's 4 items in total and those items add up fast. Money adds up quickly. It's also failed on front discs and pads. The front discs are warped, so they're not running true and straight, and it's making the brake pedal fluctuate up and down as you apply the brakes when you're going down the road, especially at high speeds, which is potentially a bit dangerous because you're not getting a good feel for the brakes, the brake pedal. And last but not least, it's failed its emissions test. Now, it's a diesel. Did you have an emissions test just like a petrol? But it cannot emit too much smoke, and this is smoking way too much. And the reason it's smoking way too much is it's got a misfire. So we need to figure out what's causing the misfire, rectify that, and then hopefully the smoke is reduced. But I'll get in the car, I'll try and demonstrate the misfire, and then we'll get it plugged in and go from there. Car is also due a service, so we've got to do a service on it as well. On idle, it's not misfiring, but when I hold the revs at 1,000 RPM, it is misfiring quite bad. Snap-on man's here. Should we take the camera on the snap-on van?
Yeah.
So 1,000 RPM, the misfire is quite bad. Don't know if you can visually see it shaking, but it is. I've got a cup of water here.
Like, leave it on the carpet.
Like Jurassic Park when the water jiggles when the dinosaurs come in. So hopefully you can see the water moving. You alright, Paul? Paul's becoming a regular viewer on our channel. Can we come on the truck with a camera?
No.
No. He said no.
One eternity later.
Right, so we've got it all plugged in on the diagnostic machine. If you come over here, what we're looking for is, sorry, I jumped the gun a bit there. So not many things can cause a misfire on a diesel. The most common thing to cause a misfire on a diesel is an injector. So the first thing I've already checked is the injectors. Here we've got a list of the injectors. We've got an actual value, a minimum value, and a maximum value. Now these tolerances have to be between -5 and +5. Anything either side of that tolerance, the injector can move up and down, is a fail. I'm gonna hold the revs at 1,000 RPM where the misfire is happening, to see if we can identify which injector is causing the problem. Right, we have got the back end of the car stuck out of the garage so we don't smoke anyone out, but the wind's blowing this way, so there's not much I can do about that. Right, so
Go over that.
sorry, trust the wind to be blowing this way. Gonna get loads of comments like, you should have an extraction system. The car's actually outside. I don't know if you could see or not, but cylinder 1 was showing to be faulty it was a lot. It was going out of tolerance when we were testing yesterday, but it's not today. Maybe it's a temperature thing. The engine's cold at the moment because it's freezing. So yeah, basically we've diagnosed this to a faulty injector, cylinder 1. Let's get it on the ramp, let's show you what we're doing, and we'll go from there. It's a good job we are changing the front discs and pads because they are squeaking like mad anyway. Not only are they warped, they're squeaking. I've already took the engine cover off before anyone says the engine cover's missing. 642 V6 CDI. Very popular engine, very powerful for a diesel. I think these came in a 280, a 320 and a 350. Smooth, powerful diesel as far as diesels go. Obviously this is a smoky one. Let's get it on the ramp, show you what's failed its MOT. Right, underneath the car, this is what has failed. This arm here, which has a bush in it for the shock absorber, has a ball joint in it for the anti-roll bar link, and then it has a big bush in the end here which bolts to the subframe. Now this is the bush that's failed. You might not be able to see the best on the ramp, but the MOT centre's failed it on this.
Oh yeah.
You see that big crack? That's just separated all the way around. So as you're braking and the wheel's pushing backwards, there's just too much flex in that bush. So we don't replace the bush, we replace the whole arm. I think we're putting a Febu length order one on this. Might be Febu, might be length order, either way. That way we're replacing the 2 remaining bushes as well, the shock absorber bush and the anti-roll bar link ball joint. This arm was a fail. This forward facing arm, same problem with this bush. When we pry it, oh, it's, yeah, see how bad that is in there? It's just moving too much. That bush has failed. Again, we're going to replace the full arm, so we're replacing the ball joint on the other side. But this arm here has been advised. It's an advisory. However, the customer wants the advisory arm replacing as well. He also wants the opposing forward-facing arm replacing as well, even though that has no advisories. It'll be interesting to see if it has worn that one, because it's got, say they sell these dust covers which cover up the bush, which stops you inspecting it properly. So he wants that replacing regardless, so it's going to have 4 arms in total replaced. Brakes are squeaking on reverse, not that that's why it's failed. They failed because they're warped, so they're not running true and straight. As the brake pedal is applied, he's getting feedback through the pedal. So we've got the suspension arms in stock. We've got front discs and pads coming from Mercedes next week. It's a Friday today. Injector's not coming till Tuesday. It's been here a couple of days already. It's going to be stuck here over the weekend. Hopefully we'll get it retested and back on the road for Wednesday, providing we've got enough time. I was going to get Nathan to do this, but he said I've not done much mechanical work this week, so all right, I'll do it then. Oh Jesus, that's tight. It gets you nice and warm anyway, because it's freezing. Cheers, Nathan. So that is not undoing, so we'll get a bigger bar. Look at it, we've gone from that 21 to that 21 to that 21. Sounds like Nathan's wallet opening that. Open your wallet, Nathan. Right, so we missed a bit of filming then. We got interrupted by a customer. So apologies if there's a bit of a skip, but that's the way it is. It's a working garage, it's not a production company. Right, see if we can get one side done, and then we want to go home. As I explained, it's Friday, the rest of the parts aren't coming till next week. So I might look different next week, I might have had a shave or something. I can obviously hit this arm with a hammer because we're changing it anyway. There we go. Right, so there is the arm. As you can see, there's the crack around the edges. Put it in the vise, see if it's more visible. So that should not be there. Right, just going to put everything on loose for now. A couple of nuts in to hold it in place. Grease all the bolts up, get it all back together. We keep getting interrupted on this job. It's now actually Monday, whereas we started this on Friday. We knew we weren't going to finish it, but anyway, back on it. Finished fitting the arm, the main lower control arm, which is this one. So that's all fitted now. We've also replaced the anti-roll bar link. I had a couple of them in stock, which I've had in stock for a while. So we're just replacing them while we're in there for the customer. A little freebie. Yeah, I just had them laying around, so thought I'd chuck them on, why not?
That is so considerate.
So let's get this arm out. This is the arm that we couldn't inspect properly because it's got the dust covers on. So it'll be interesting to see, does this actually need doing or not? Customer wants it doing, but we'll see if it does or doesn't. Right, we've got the arm out, took the dust covers off that was covering it up. One side of the bush appears to be okay. The other side has got some cracks in it at the bottom. It's not the worst I've ever seen. Like I say, that's not the worst one I've ever seen, but customer wants it replacing. So yeah, they are oil filled, these bushes, so they're filled with oil. So if that crack gets deep enough, oil will actually leak out of it. Right, onto the brakes. Probably not going to show too much of what's going on here. I've already done the other side off camera. Now these pads and discs, although we are replacing them because they're warped, they're not actually that old. They've got a lot of life left on them, so it's a shame really. But it's got a weird combo on it. The discs are genuine, which is unusual for genuine discs to warp, but it's got aftermarket pads. So I don't know if the pads have got too hot and warped the discs, or the customer's done too many emergency stops. No idea. As you can see as well on the Merc pads, the chamfering on the edges is completely different. Maybe that's making a difference to the disc warping. It's definitely going to reduce brake squeak. This is why we only fit genuine brakes, because we've had nothing but trouble with aftermarket brakes. Although this is a customer of ours, we've not fitted them. There's not much difference in the price of genuine and non-genuine brakes. So it's a shame that, because there's nothing wrong with them apart from really bad brake judder. Oh. Right, let's get the caliper off, let's get the disc off. Sometimes I like just doing stuff by hand and it's freezing because it warms you up. Because it's freezing. Right, disc off. Oh, it's not too bad actually. We get quite heavy build up on the hub here. That's going to make the disc not sit flush, but in this case we're okay. Got to do a bit of a while you're in there. These torques here corrode through and allow that to rattle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to undo them, put a repair washer on so it holds the back plate nice and snug. That's another noise gone, but as you're driving down the road you'll be able to hear that. Another little cheeky repair. So we've got the bolts out. If you have a look in here, you can see where it's just corroded away a little bit. All we're going to do is tuck the screw out. Going to put it through what they call a repair washer, which is just a big washer about the size of a 2p. Screw that back in, which will just secure it nice and tight and stop it rattling. It's literally as simple as that. These are the little things that people don't see. Not the worst hub I've seen in the world. We have this hub polisher, I'll call it. So I've spent a couple of minutes cleaning that up. We'll just get the grinder on the inside bit and then we're pretty happy with that, but there's no high spots on it anyway, so that's what we want. So just applying a bit of the American anti-seize. Oh, I can't fail my fingers because it's freezing. Alright, last thing now is pads. We've already cleaned the caliper out before anyone says you've not cleaned the caliper out. Caliper's been cleaned out, checking all pistons are nice and free, which they are, both sides. 4 piston caliper this. Pads are probably handed on this, yes they are. So you see the arrow there, that is the direction of rotation. So that is the back one, that is the front one. Right, so that's the disc and pads all done. Pins all cleaned. Last job to do, got me a brake wear sensor. It's on the back of the box. Flip it over. Genuine. What's wrong with me? Just waiting for that ramp. Shut up. Right, that is the E-Class mechanically done. We are waiting on the injector still. Discs and pads are done, wheels on, wheels torqued. Service is done as well. It was definitely due the B service. Air filters were pretty dirty and whatnot. We're still waiting on an injector, so it just shows if your car goes in for an MOT, fails on a few bits, your car can be in the garage for a week. We've had this car since Thursday and we couldn't get discs and pads till Monday. We can't get the injector till Tuesday. Suspension arms, luckily we had in stock, so hopefully we've got enough time to do that. Then we can get it retested and then it's done. See you when the injector arrives. Finally, we have an injector. It's about 3 days later. Cover off. Right, we have definitely had this car getting close to a week. Good job. It's a very good and patient customer. It's not our fault, it is Mercedes and suppliers, and you know, these things aren't always to hand all the time. So the injector's here, brand new injector from Mercedes. I say brand new, it's actually a reconditioned injector, but it's as good as new. That means it's slightly cheaper. Warranty is exactly the same. The only difference is we have to send back the one we're taking off the car. These injectors are coded to the engine. You have to tell the engine ECU what code cylinder 1 injector has got, otherwise it will run terrible. So brand new injector from Mercedes. The reason we like to stick to genuine injectors is because I have had like remanufactured aftermarket ones in the past and they're made up of different injectors and the codes don't match the bodies and stuff like that. So I always stick to Mercedes. The price difference is here and there, and you know you're getting a proper part that's actually got a code into your car correctly. So also Nathan has done the B service on it, who's holding the camera. Was well worth doing. Air filters were quite badly contaminated, stuff like that. So servicing's up to date. We didn't really film that. There's not much to show you. During the service we do a health check. The car is actually in good condition. You know, we can see where there's been money spent on the car previously. We service the car mainly, but it doesn't have all its work done here. So let's get this airbox out, get the injector out, show you what is going on. So this cover here, take this off to reveal the injectors. So that's injector 1. Cylinder 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So number 1. That's the leak off pipe. Got to be very gentle with that. Very easy to break, especially with it being plastic. It's been hot and cold for getting on 200,000 miles. Little flathead screwdriver, 4th drawer down in Nathan's toolbox. We're using Nathan's tools today. 17mm here. And to undo this one here, you actually need a special tool, which I'll also show you. Here we go, special tool from Mercedes, part number 000-589-6803-00. I'm not sure if they use the very last 00 at the end. And it's not a 17, it's an 18. So crack that off. So as you can see with this one, the reason you need this, they're called crow's feet. You can actually buy sets of stuff like this, but this is got a special indentation to slot down. The reason you need it is because you need to be able to turn without touching the leak off pipe. It'd be very easy if you put a spanner on there. Well, I'll get a spanner, I can show you. It's quite hard to get on that because the spanner doesn't go deep enough. So that's just not getting a good grip at all. This way, the edge of the spanner is going to touch that. It's just not going to work. Well, you could make it work, but it's quite risky. So this slots on top, goes down the groove of the injector, and then you can just undo and then get it off and out the way. You don't want it anywhere near that leak off pipe if it can be helped. T40 for the stretch bolt. The bolt that holds the injector in is a one-time use bolt. It feels a bit tight, that, actually. Take our time with that. Got to wind that in and out a few times. It feels a bit funny. So now the injector may not come out by hand. If not, I do have a special puller, which I think I'm going to have to use. Again, special tool. Now, you can probably buy these universal / aftermarket now, but back in the day, I had to buy this from Mercedes. So that screws straight on the top of the injector. We're not going to smash it out, we're just going to have a little feel of it, see how it's coming already. Nice and simple. Copper washers come out with it, which is good, so we don't have to fish that out. So what I'm going to do now is, I've got like an old, it's like just a barbecue cleaner type brush that I've chopped the end off. I put that in my drill and I just put that down the hole just to give it a clean out. Last thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a tap down the bolt hole just because it's a bit tight coming out. You always want to make sure them threads are nice and clean. I'm not re-tapping a thread, I'm just cleaning the thread. But like I've just been cleaning the injector bore, I'll call it. A lot of people recut the injector seat at the bottom, which is like, it's like a big piece of metal. And it's quite sharp on the bottom and you twist it and it cuts a new seat. Personally, I'm not a big fan of doing that. I don't like the idea of losing material down at the bottom of the cylinder head because we've only got that little copper washer, and if we're removing material, we're giving the copper washer less material to compress against. So a lot of people say, oh, you should have recut that, and if it doesn't need doing, I just give it a clean with a wire brush. I'm not a big fan of recutting unless need be. Everything's cleaned, ready to go. As always, you have to replace the bolt. It's a stretch bolt, but we also replace the clamp. It's a good while you're in there. It's about £6. I have seen the feet of the clamp wear out before, and you don't get as good of tight a seal on the injector. And what we do is, to make it come out easier, should it ever need to come out for whatever reason, we put a special grease on, which is actually by Febby. It's good for heater plugs, diesel injectors, stuff like that. Right, so that's all bolted in. Injection rail back on. When I'm putting these pipes back on, I always screw it up both ends by hand as far as it can go, because you could tighten up one end and the other end's not exactly flush and it can cock and leak. So recommendation is tighten them up by hand until it stops all the way, and then a little nip on each one. Right, leak off pipe all done. We are going to leave the injector cover off, airbox off. We're going to leave all that off so we can check for leaks, because once that's on you'll never know. And also we need to now get it on the machine and code it. Put the code in. So we're on the diagnostics now. We are into the coding section of the injectors. As you can see, the machine is giving us a demo of where to find the code, which we already knew, so we took a picture. These injectors are made by Bosch, by the way, if anyone's wondering.
Bosch.
So we've got B11. If you look at the digits, sometimes like it's hard to distinguish like an O and a 0 and stuff like that because of the text format they use. But luckily this isn't too bad. B11 YGEH. On a more modern car, that code would be so much longer, and we actually have a barcode scanner which we can scan the injector to get the code, but it's not always accurate. Right, so as you can see now, that code has gone in for injector 1. Now we need to program that in. I'm going to go back into it to ensure the ECU has accepted it, which it has. So now we're going to start it up, check for leaks, then we can finish putting it back together. Right, so we've got no leaks. Probably the engine's probably drowning out the noise. No leaks. So I'm happy to put it back together, put the airbox back on, then we can rev it at 1000 RPM, make sure our misfire's gone, and most importantly the smoke that was coming out the back, because it was really bad. Right, finally time for a road test. I feel like this job has dragged on a bit and probably isn't one of my finest videos, but we're really trying to keep up with content this year, so they can't all be amazing, and it'll be a shame to waste the footage. And now I'm going to have to reverse back to the garage because I've no idea what the total cost of this job is. Right, let's try again. So the whole purpose of this video is it worth it? You know, this car is approaching 200,000 miles, currently on 184,000. Most of you watching are probably thinking, I wouldn't spend that much money on that old bag of turd or whatever. Well, everybody gets to this point with an older, higher mileage Mercedes of, is it worth spending the money? But I think you've got to look at it as, depends how long you've owned the car, have you always maintained the car correctly? If so, how good has the car been to you? Because by this point, the car is worthless. You know, if it's going to the scrapyard, it's, you know, you got to get 400 or 500 quid. If you get it through another MOT for another 12 months and you know you've had previous work done on the car, so the rest of the car has had maintenance done on it, can you buy another car for that value to get you through 12 months? I mean, there's nothing to say that nothing else could go wrong with this car within the 12-month period, obviously. We'll go through how much this has cost. So quick breakdown of what we've done. We've replaced 4 suspension arms. We've done a B service, which is oil filter, air filters and a cabin filter. We've also done front disc and pads, which was unfortunate. And the disc and pads thickness condition was fine, but unfortunately they'd warped, so we had to replace those. Because of all the suspension work we've done, we've had to do the tracking on the vehicle. And what else? Oh, the injector. We had that misfire and smoking, so it failed its emissions test on the MOT also. That's now sorted, no more smoking. Two front anti-roll bar links. I chucked them in as freebies. I had some like new old stock, if you like. I had a couple lying around that weren't doing anything, so I put them on for nothing. They're probably about 80 quid's worth. It's here and there considering the price of the bill anyway. The total cost for this bill is £2,700, and that has got it a service. I won't say the front suspension's been overhauled because there's a lot more components that you could replace. We have replaced more suspension than what it failed on, but the customer wanted the advisory items replacing and that one suspension arm that we weren't sure on the condition because of the rubber boot. But he said to replace that. Luckily we took it off and it did have a split in it anyway, so that was worth doing. Discs and pads, like I say, a little bit unlucky. Is it worth it? I think so. I've had a good look over the car. The general condition of the car is pretty good considering the age and the mileage. I can see that the car's had work spent on it before. It's had some new rear shockers, some good branded Sachs rear shockers. It's had springs, it's got all good tyres on it. So I would say so, yeah. Can you buy a luxury Mercedes for the price of this bill with a 12-month MOT? Probably not. Wow, that sun's bright. And like I say, feel like when you get to this stage with a vehicle, if it kind of owes you nothing, it's kind of like you're just buying another car to get you by. That may sound ridiculous, but hopefully that makes sense. Obviously, if we had a look over the vehicle and, you know, the general condition of it was poor, then you would start to think, well, it's probably not worth it. But because the car is actually in good condition, I think it's worth it. Most people are probably going to say, well, of course you're going to say that because you're the mechanic and somebody's paying you the bill to fix it. Overall, I quite like the 211. It's not a bad car. This is a facelift version. I would much rather have a facelift 211 over the pre-facelift version. The facelift version was a lot better. So if you fancy a 211, cheap cars these days, I would go for the facelift one. A few reasons: they're a bit prettier. They changed the mirrors, they changed the bumpers, the steering wheel. Even though the suspension's the same, I feel like they drive a bit sharper. Maybe because you can get a sports package in the facelift, which really firms the suspension up and the steering a bit. Facelift model does not have the SBC braking system, which if you're into Mercedes, you might already know that the SBC system is not the most reliable system, I'll say. It's quite a costly thing when that SBC pump needs replacing, whereas this doesn't have that, so we're back to a traditional ABS pump. But I mean, looking around this car for 185,000 miles, I can't really fault it. It drives spot on. It's nice and clean. Still got plenty of power. Even though I'm not a big diesel fan, this V6 642 engine is a powerful, smooth diesel. If I was to have one, this would be my go-to. They have got plenty of torque, these engines, and they can do the mileage should you look after them properly, clearly. But yeah, even the bodywork on this car is pretty good. I've been around the bodywork. There's no rust, dents, scratches. It's been pretty well looked after, to be honest. It's an A to B car. Gets you from one place to another and back again. Job done. So I hope this video's been okay. I know it's been a bit stop and start. We've had this car for a week. We've been waiting on parts. I've been interrupted loads trying to film this, but it just shows how difficult it is for me to film sometimes. Hopefully it comes out good enough. As always, you can buy your merchandise on our website. I'll leave a link for that below. I appreciate everyone that does do that. It all goes back in the YouTube funding pot to keep the channel going. So I think that concludes this video. Thanks for watching. Make sure you give us a thumbs up and a subscribe. It makes a massive difference to the channel, and we'll see you on the next one.